Hi, everyone. You're listening to the UFO podcast with Dwayne and John. Say hi to the people, Dwayne.
Hi, people. How's Dwayne? Dwayne sucks. Okay.
Right here in the camera.
Oh, there. Hi, people. The lights are so bright I can't see where the hell the camera is.
Yeah, you don't have to look over there. It's fine.
Okay.
Just stay with me here.
All right.
Yeah, man. So, it's been a while since we've done one of these. We've been a little busy, doing some work, some side jobs here and there. And, prepping for the machine and whatnot. Yeah, that depends if, that's the...
Writing stories.
we were writing a couple stories.
Writing a script.
Yeah. And prepping, trying to get back into the lingo with the UFO machine. That's been quite an adventure, huh?
Yeah, well, we can't talk about the movie that's coming up that we're being considered for. Again, this is for renting hardware, for the motion picture.
Right.
And it's called is the name of the film, and some of the stars are but it's going to be a really good film. Anyway, I'll shut up, bro.
Yeah. Well, yeah, here we are today. We just got back. We got, a good phone call yesterday on a little story Dwayne and I have been playing with, and hopefully something comes of it. Anyways, let's not bore the people with that. The main reason for the podcast is to tell some of Dwayne's fun stories throughout his life. He's had quite a career and quite a life. What were we talking about? We were talking about let's see, it was the roommate. The roommate set on
Sammy.
fire. Yeah, so tell me about that. Let's say, how did the day start? Because I'm sure you guys didn't wake up thinking he was going to be set on fire.
He was being invited to a barbecue, and he was it. Yeah. No, Sammy. Yeah. So Sam and I were roommates at Cal State Northridge. And how we even got to be roommates is pretty weird.
Yeah, no rush, brother. No rush.
Okay. So we were registering for classes, and I'd never been to CSUN before. And so I was thinking, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm probably going to get all the wrong classes. I just want to get into college and get out of college as soon as possible. So this person looked like he had a book, and he had pages and stuff, and he looked like he was smart, unlike me. And so I said, "Excuse me, could you please tell me where so-and-so class is at?" And I waited for an answer, and I go, I guess I got to talk a little louder. So, "Excuse me, could you please tell me where the class I can register for this at?" And he didn't respond. I'm going, wow, this guy is really rude. So I'm watching classes being pulled off the board like they're taken now, and I'm going, I'm not going to get my classes that I need. So I just kind of like tapped him a little gently, rough on his shoulder, right shoulder, and he jumps up and he turns around and he starts waving his hands at me. I'm going, and I realized, oh, he can't hear. And I felt really dumb. And I go, no, I'm so sorry, whatever that was supposed to look.
He was signing to you.
He was doing sign language, yeah. And so I felt like a real turd. And he walked off. And he was probably thinking, what a turd. But anyway, so I felt so bad. So Did
you know sign language at that time?
Hell no. I barely knew English. So I saw a person signing with some students, and it's, excuse me, I think I really embarrassed myself, and I embarrassed this other individual. I told the interpreter what I'd done, and she goes, yeah, well, that I understand, but that was kind of a little off the wall. She says, what do you want to do about it? I said, I think I should go and apologize to him. And she goes, okay, let's go. So she said, well, write it out, and I'll sign it for you, okay? So I wrote it out. I'm very, very sorry. I had no idea you were deaf, and I apologize deeply. So he took it over, and she gave it to him. And he took the paper, he looked at it, he read it, and he signed something back to her. And then he ripped up my thing and dropped it on the floor. And he going, well, I guess that went pretty good. So I said, thank you very much, and tried to wave goodbye to the deaf gentleman, the guy, and he just split. Okay, so now the next time we're actually in a class. And they had this teacher called Sid Salko. And Sid Salko did a lot of black and white TV shows when he was a younger guy, and now he's teaching at Cal State Northridge. And so
he was an actor.
No, he was a director. He was a director.
Oh, wow.
He had done The Lone Ranger. He'd done, what was it, Lone Ranger? Oh, he'd done quite a few. Oh, Fury, My Friend Flicka.
What was his name again?
Sid Salko, S-A-L-K-O-W. Yeah, very cool guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the classroom, and they're splitting up the class for 5 people to a group. Okay, so I didn't get put in a group. And so I didn't notice that Sam, the deaf student, was there in the classroom as well. He was sitting in the back. And so he says, okay, Logan, yeah. He says, okay, so you're going to be with Sam in the back. And he says, well, go ahead and meet your scene partner with your production partner. And it was Sammy, and he looks at me and he goes to the interpreter and they start signing back and forth. And basically he didn't want me, he didn't want anything to do with me. Yeah. And I go, oh, I'm so sorry. So I go up. So he walks out of the class with the interpreter. So I walk up to the teacher and say, I don't think this is going to work. I think it's a great idea for communication, but I don't think it's going to work. Yeah. And the teacher says, and I said, so why did you put the two of us together anyway? He goes, well, everybody knows that Indians speak sign language. Right.
This was, what was his name?
Sid Salco. Yeah, very nice, sweet old guy.
Oh, he did write The Lone Ranger.
We didn't write it, but he directed a few episodes. He did direct it, yeah.
It's a safe assumption, I think.
Yeah, I guess so. So anyway, so I go to the interpreter, and she's out in the hallway, and she catches up to Sam. And so I says, look, I would love to be in a team with you. And he goes, it's you and me, and I'm going, well, we can, I didn't know how to sign, and so I'm writing, we can work this out. Anyway, so he just says, no thanks. Or she said no thanks for him, and they both took off. I figured this is such a fiasco. This is stupid. So I figured I got to learn how to talk to Sam. So I went to the Center on Deafness, and there was some great teachers there, and they had deaf students working there. They had hearing people or people who were deaf working at the Center on Deafness. And so I signed up for a couple of sign language classes. And so I began taking sign language courses. Okay, now I got to get an apartment or something. So I see a note looking for 2 roommates, so much a month, blah, blah, and parking spot, whatever. So I put down, I'll be happy to come meet, and we'll work it out. So I get to the apartment that afternoon, and the other potential roommate of all people was Sam. And he's like, he's got an interpreter with him, and basically, what the hell are you doing here? And I'm going to tell him, I think I'm his new roommate. And we became roommates. That's before I set him on fire. So that sounds terrible. Sorry, Sam. So anyway, we got to be friends because now not friends.
You had to get along.
We had to work together. Yeah. We needed a grade.
Right.
And so a friend of mine who was a doctor had this big old 1965 Lincoln Continental with the suicide doors. And the only problem is it didn't start really good. So the doctor, Dr. Feeney, had said sometimes you got to pour a little gasoline down the carburetor, and that'll help it prime it so it'll run before electronic ignition. And so I had explained to Sam on a pencil and paper.
Where were you guys living at this time?
Well, now we actually had an apartment in Northridge.
Okay.
And whether you liked it or not, we were roommates.
Yeah.
And so we took a trip up to Santa Barbara, came on back down. He wanted to take some photographs. And so he's taking photographs, and I'm sitting back at the car, and then I'm trying to write out, you have to pour some gas in the carburetor with this little glass bottle. And I said, if you see the fan turning, step back, whatever. I don't remember too much, but it was really interesting. So he comes back, and I'm sitting in the car, and the hood is up. You couldn't see through the hood. And oh, it was so stupid. I was so dumb. So anyway, I give him the signal. I start waving at him,
Wait, hold on. Who poured the gas in the carburetor?
Sam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you? Why make that face?
I'm glad it was me. Yeah. Well, I'm glad it worked out as well as it did. Anyway, so I'm sitting in the car, and I go, and all of a sudden, poof. And there's all these flames that go across the windshield. They're going, and I look out the window, and here's Sam running down the PCH, and he's on fire. And I go, oh my gosh, I burned up my roommate. So I get out, and I'm running down the freeway, and I grab him, tackle him, throw him on the ground. And I just there's bushes and dirt and sand because we were right near the ocean. So I just start throwing sand on him and stuff, and it was terrible. So we got the fire out, and everything was fine, except there was a bit of his nose missing. it got burned off. And I go, this is not going to be good. I'm going to get in trouble, and Sam's
Yeah.
in trouble, and not from him, but from me. Anyway, so we got a hold of a doctor through one of the professors at school. It was Dr. Grossman from the Grossman Clinic, very famous burn specialist. And so Sam and I went to see Dr. Grossman. Excuse me, just a second.
Go for it.
So we went to go see Dr. Grossman, and so he's looking and he goes, well, the tip of his nose is gone, the cartilage is gone, but he says, we can do plastic surgery, get it all rebuilt. I says, great, it's paid for, just please take care of it. He says, well, let's bandage it up and see how it's going to go. So he did some bandaging and chemicals and antibiotics and stuff. And literally, after about 5 or 7 days, when he went and took the bandages off, he goes, well, somebody up there loves you. And we go, and there was an interpreter there with Sam. The interpreter says, well, what's happening? He says, well, I prayed for your friend here because there was no tissue, no cartilage left in the tip. And God must love this guy because the nose is back. And which was pretty cool. And so Sam was very, very happy, very pissed at me. And after that, so the interpreter says, you guys gotta have some communication because, I've never seen anything quite like this going
Buy
on
a
here.
lottery ticket at that point.
Yeah, we should have. He should have. It probably would have won. So we actually wound up doing a film together, and it was a 16 millimeter film. We won an award with it, and we became pretty good friends for many years, even after he left. He graduated from CSUN, and now he's a professor at a college, and he's got a great family, and we're still friends, so it's very cool.
Yeah.
And I finally learned sign language.
Very nice, man.
Yeah, for Sam.
But I'm curious, how does someone become a professor if all they know is sign language?
Well, that's interesting. Sam came from a mom and dad who are both deaf.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I think there were 3 or 4 brothers. And Sam was deaf. David was deaf. And the father worked in a print shop, but he loved film. So he was writing short film stories, and he was shooting them in 16 millimeter.
The father.
The father, yes. And the mom was really just a great lady, and she was deaf. But pretty much all the kids were essentially deaf. So Sam had grown up at the name of the gentleman who invented sign language. It was back east, I believe. I keep wanting to say Mandalorian, but that's not what it was. It was a university for deaf students. It began with an M. I can't remember anymore. It's been a while. And so I learned sign language. But they grew up, they learned to speak, okay, a deaf person who can read lips, it's a talent. It's not something you develop. This is what deaf people would tell me. Mm-hmm. And they'd say deaf people who learn how to pronunciate words, they have to do it by what it feels like in their mouth because they can't hear anything. So, for example, Sam would say, well, the biggest thing for him was one of the words was antique, but you spell it like antique-y, And it was very interesting, just the hoops he'd have to jump through to learn how to communicate. And so when there was a movie he wanted to go see, he couldn't hear anything. Even if he had double hearing aids, he was profoundly deaf. So no matter what hearing aid he had in his ears, he couldn't hear at all. So I learned how to speak sign language, and we'd go to movies. And I would sit there and interpret the whole thing into sign language for him, and then he could see what the movie was. At least he got his money's worth, sort of,
Yeah, no subtitles during that time, right?
They didn't have subtitles for deaf people back then. It's like deaf people, they were the invisible handicap, as they would say. So people don't take them seriously. It's not like seeing a person who's in a wheelchair. That's an issue. Or it's not like a person who's got part of their eyes missing or something. That's an issue. Deaf people, since they're not recognizable as a person having a hard time with a physical issue, nobody pays attention.
Yeah.
So Sam was just an unusually smart person, and we became great friends. And We did quite a few film projects together.
Oh wow. Well, that's what I was asking you. How did he become a professor? A professor of what?
Well, he knows sign language, and then like
That's how it was just signing the
yeah,
entire time.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like when Sam was going to see some, they had a really great.
I guess I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I guess he would have to. He teaches deaf kids, I assume.
No, no, he doesn't. What the deal is, there was a man called Dr. Larry Flesher.
Mm-hmm.
He was deaf. His wife was deaf. And there's Lou and Sue. I can't remember the last times. They were both hearing, but they wanted to work with deaf students. So Larry Flesher had a couple of books out on how to speak sign language. I took his classes. And the other two people, the deaf husband and wife, they learned sign language. And they were teaching deaf students, how to work with hearing students. And then it was a learning experience for everybody involved. It was one of the first major programs. Oh, and the school that was the major deaf university in the United States was Gallaudet. Gallaudet University, yes.
Here in the States.
In the United States, yeah. And what I get it confused with blindness, where they would push things in the hand. But at Gallaudet, they learned how to do sign language,
Yeah.
which was developed by deaf people for hearing people to know how to communicate with them.
That's pretty cool, man.
It was really cool. I learned a
Yeah.
lot from Sam. Just an amazing person of how they see things in life.
Right. Yeah, he would have a whole entire different perspective. I mean, he can't hear.
Yeah. Wait a second. Huh?
So what?
I love to sell light. I remember like
We're still rolling, just so you know.
Oh,
You want me to pause on
yeah.
that? Okay.
Okay, we're at this right.
Sorry about that,
I
guys.
don't want to get sued either. All right.
It's just Dwayne has, he's got some funny shit on his mind.
I'm sorry.
It's all good,
All
man.
right.
I'm gonna take a really hard right turn on this whole conversation. Now, you were talking about how you were at Cal State Northridge.
Yeah.
I do remember you always telling me how there was a time where you fell on hard times, and I'm not sure if it's between this and from when you went to college, because that whole area of your life is kind of a blur to me because I don't know much about it. I've only heard things, but I have a note here that talks about when you had your throat slit open.
Well, that was really fun.
Was that during the time you were in Northridge
Well, partly.
in college?
Yes. I had enrolled at CSUN. Excuse me, got to clear my throat
Yeah,
here.
go for it.
I had enrolled at CSUN, and in the process, I got involved in some performing, nothing special. And then I was about to be going to Europe to actually get into recording to make a record.
So you had already done the acting thing, and
Yeah.
you were basically all set up to
head
make
out.
the next move and
Right.
make music.
Yes. And we'd actually had begun to record an album in Scandinavia, and a lot of great people involved in it. But somewhere along the way, I was driving a van, and two guys who had kind of been, I guess, keeping their eyes on the apartment I lived in, because there's a lot of thieves out there, and they see people hauling in stereo systems and big screen TVs.
We're talking Northridge in the mid 70s,
This would be
late 70s,
late 70s,
late
yeah.
70s.
Yeah, early 80s, late 70s.
Things were a bit rough around the valley during that time with
Yeah.
gang violence, and it's LA.
Yeah, it was the valley. And so somebody, we were packing. I had a bunch of friends over at the apartment house that I was living at, and I went out to get some potato chips and Pepsis and Cokes and stuff. And somebody evidently had gotten inside my van and was hiding in the back. And then I parked to get some gas for it and get potato chips and stuff for the people that are packaging my junk up. And when I get back inside my van, someone attacks me. And there were two people. I didn't get to see them at all. I have no idea who it was.
Was this nighttime?
Yeah. It was like about 2 o'clock in the morning. We had to
Oh,
have all the
dang.
bags at SAS Air Freight. At 6 or 7 in the morning, they were going to load them in the jet, and we were going to take off at 3 in the afternoon from LAX. Anyway, so somebody stuck a knife in my throat, and were trying to kill me, and that was really exciting. And so I was, I'm not just going to sit there and go, kill me, you know.
Yeah,
That's
flight or flight instinct kicked in.
instinct kicked in. And so I just, as somebody threw their body over my legs, and here's this person, and I didn't even felt that I'd been stabbed, but blood was everywhere. So I'm hitting this person that's over me. I'm hitting on their face and trying to hit them with my fist, and then I'm kicking my legs back and forth. I just knew it was very important not to keep sitting still and do nothing. Oh,
Yeah.
And so inevitably, I noticed that my driver's door is open, and I just threw my body out onto the street. And the van went on down the street, and climbed the curb, and landed up against the tree.
Two guys just took off.
Well, I don't know, but I was laying on my back in the middle of the street, and I thought, geez, it's raining. However, at the time, it wasn't raining, but I felt something warm was coming down on me. It was blood. They nicked an artery, and it was squirting. And when I stood up, I'm going, well, this is really bad. So I remember putting my hand here, and I walked to my van, and I'm thinking, nobody's going to answer their front door, after midnight. And I'm in cutoff jeans, and I got sandals on, and I'm wearing a T-shirt, a tank top. And so I figured, this sucks. So I get back to the van, and it was still running. So they had left the van. And there was blood all over the dash, blood on the seats. It was a nice new van, too. And so I drove myself to the Northridge Hospital and drove through a bush, drove in towards the back door, get out of the van, and I'm covered in blood from top to bottom. And somebody they look at me like, what the hell is this? And I says, I've been cut. I need to see a doctor.
I need some assistance.
And so they grabbed me, laid me down. And bottom line is, they got two surgeons to come in, a neurosurgeon and a vascular surgeon, and
What back then? How did they stop the bleeding? Did they put
I don't know. I called a good friend of mine, and I says, "Hey, are you busy right now?" He goes, "I'm studying for midterms." I'm going, "Oh, is everything okay?" Well, I just want to say, I'll catch you later, And there's no point being upset about it. You're either going to live or die. And what the hell? I don't want to ruin his exams.
Yeah.
And then I was going to call my mom and say, "Oh, I'm going to be dead by the time he got here."
Yeah.
But I didn't do that. That would have been not nice. So anyway, so they took me up, and then even the doctors said, well, we'd like to know who did this because we want to get a dying declaration. This is going to kill you. I go, well, that's really great. I didn't see who did it. And okay. And when the detectives came out and they measured the amount of blood in the bottom of my van, the first thing was so this is after I'm in the ICU the very next day. And they says, well, there was enough blood in there that you should have been dead before you even got to the hospital. And going, okay. And they says, you have no idea. I said, I didn't see it. They came up behind me. It was 1, 2 in the morning. I was half asleep, and it woke me up real quick. And hang on a minute.
Yeah, go ahead. All right.
So now it's the next day. I was taken out of the ICU. I was in the ICU for a day and a half. Then they took me out, and they put me in a private room. And and we thought it had to do with money, that because I was going to Europe, because there was a lot of expensive equipment involved, And somebody figured, well, Dwayne's got a lot of money, or this
Got
guy's got a lot of money.
some.
They're
Yeah.
watching, watching us load
Yeah, I
very
mean,
expensive
you were living in
equipment.
an apartment too.
Yeah.
Everybody sees everything going down in apartment complexes. I've lived in an apartment too, and a lot of action.
It was the first time I ever lived in an apartment,
Yeah.
and people were watching what you got, big deal. So anyway, the doctors came in, and like every hour or two, they'd come in and they'd take off the bandage, they'd look at each other, and they'd put it back on, and they'd say, "We'll be back." Well, after about 3 or 4 of these looky-loos, the guys came in, the two doctors, Dr. Hong and Dr. Jabbar, and I said, "So you keep coming in here. Can you tell me what's going on?" And they go, "Well, it's very unusual. You should be dead. You died twice on the table. We had to get your heart jump started. But that's not the interesting parts. Here's the interesting parts. Do you have any pain?" I'm going, "No." And they go, "Well, your heart quit beating twice on the table, so we didn't want to put anything into your system that would maybe slow down your heart operation and have a heart attack. So we have given you no painkillers.
Yeah.
Don't you have any pain?" I hadn't thought about it because I didn't have any pain. I
Right.
go, "No." And they go, "Well, you should," because a lot of nerves were damaged and whatnot. They went in here, went across the front of my throat, and it got to my upper lobe of my left lung. It was a long knife. They were just trying to let's make hamburgers. And so anyway, I go, "Okay," and they go, and then they said, "You should be having physiological trauma. How do you feel?" I go, "Well, I feel like I'm pissed off, and I got somewhere to be in a couple of days, and if I miss it, I won't have a music career." And they go, "Well, so you don't have any pain? You're not stressed?" I go, "I'm not stressed. I'm just pissed off." And they go, "Well," and I says, "Was there more?" And they just kept looking at each other. And I said, "Well," they says, "We're going to show you something." So they got a mirror, and they took off the bandage, and they're looking at it, and I'm looking at it. I go, "What am I looking at?" And they go, "It's completely healed over." That's impossible, but it's completely healed over. So it was real pink. It was tender. Didn't hurt. It just didn't hurt. It was pink. And they say, we've taken tests. Everything checks out fine, except it looks like a scary movie. And so we're going to release you from the hospital. Okay. And so one thing I was concerned about it, because I knew they had got across here. So I says, "The only thing I'm concerned about, I'm supposed to be involved in a music project in Scandinavia. Can I sing?" And they go, "We don't know, but we don't see any damage there, so we think you'll be okay."
Yeah.
So we called the record company. I stayed an extra 2 weeks just to make sure this was going to come unglued or stitched or something.
Yeah.
And went to Europe. And got to the studio and began to make a record. And never caught the guys did it. Never saw who did it. Don't know why anybody did it, except we figured it had to be some form of an armed robbery.
Probably
That they
just
had a knife.
Yeah. It sounds like the plan was to steal the van, and well, that's kind of weird too. Because if that was the plan, why did they ditch the van?
Well, I fought him off. So what
Yeah.
happened is when the guy throws his body across my legs, and I'm doing this, I'm banging on the guy's back, and I was trying to get the door open. The window was already down. And when I saw the door open, I just threw myself out on the street, and then it went on down, and I'm laying in the street, and I thought it was raining. And what it was my blood was squirting out of the artery and coming back down on my face. So I get to the van, and I'm saying, "Well, I got to see, this looks pretty bad right now." So I look in the mirror, and just a bunch of meats hanging out. And so I put my hand across her like this, and I just began squeezing. And so I got the flow of blood slowed down, and said a quick little prayer, told me, "Die like this. I got stuff to do in my life," and found the hospital. And the rest is history. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy you survived, man. And
Thank you.
those detectives being, flabbergasted and amazed, really, that, I mean, going from bleeding from your artery,
Yeah.
raining blood,
Well,
and then I'm surprised you even made it to the freaking hospital.
well, yeah.
know.
Yeah, they said you should never, because the amount of blood they measured in the bottom when they had the forensics detectives come out, and the coroner came out, I guess he was, oh, God, he made it. And they says, you never should have made it to the hospital, the amount of blood that was. Oh, yeah. The theory was by the police that I was attacked by gang members of some sort, and they're the ones who attacked me. And when my feet were stomping back and forth, I guess one of my feet would hit the brake. So we do this kind of routine. My other foot hit the gas, and away we go. And after about 3 of those like that, the guy over my right rear shoulder just, he was gone. I don't know where he went, but either he flew into the back or got out into the door. But he wasn't there when I got to the hospital.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a nice way to meet people.
They suspect that it was the other guy's blood on there. So it was somebody's blood.
Somebody's
at that
blood,
point.
but, well,
Yeah.
we know it was mine was on the floor.
Yeah.
It was a new van, too. Jeez.
Damn, man. Well, I'm glad you made it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, everyone, I think Dwayne will wrap this story time up. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
this was a good fun run. We haven't done it in a while, but here we are doing it again today.
Thank you all very much. Before you get your throat cut open, make sure your fingernails are smooth. Anyway.
All right, everyone, you're listening to the UFO podcast with
John
Dwayne and
Chad.
John. All right, everyone, have a good night.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.